Welcome to Learning to Glow, a show about wellness, skin health, and self-development. I'm your host, Jess. I'm a mom, entrepreneur, and skincare expert. I'm so excited to share tips on how to achieve healthy skin and bring amazing guests in the field of health, fitness, aging gracefully, and personal growth. Let's explore all different ways we can take care of ourselves as women, both inside and out, to truly shine. So let's get glowing. Hello and welcome to Learning to Glow podcast. I am your host, Jess. Today we have a very special guest, Cecily Kelly. Cecily has taught over 1,300 hours of yoga since becoming a teacher in 2016. She loves connecting with people and her community, and she's opened up a yoga studio last December, Twin Star Yoga. Her true passion is helping people feel happy and grounded in their authentic selves. We had a lovely conversation about how she got started with yoga and how she began her journey to opening up her own studio. We discussed some of the physical benefits of yoga and, even more impactful, the mental and emotional benefits. She touches on how community has impacted her life and how it plays a role in yoga. This was such a great episode. I highly recommend, if you are in Orange County, the Southern Orange County area, to check out one of her classes, and she's offering listeners to the podcast a special offer. She is offering a free class. So use code SimplyJess at checkout, and you can actually go to the studio and have a class for free. You can go to twinstaryoga.com to book your free class, and I will link all of this in the show notes, so it's all clickable. I have been to this studio and I've taken classes. I absolutely love it. So definitely check it out if you can. And also, if you enjoy this episode or the podcast, I'd really appreciate if you could rate and review it over on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, wherever you listen. Really helps me get the word out. And, if you already have, thank you so much. And thank you in advance to those of you who will. I hope you enjoy this episode and have a wonderful day. Hello, and everybody. Welcome back to Learning to Glow podcast. And today I have a very special guest and something very exciting that we've never done. We have somebody in person here with us. Cecily, thank you so much for being here.
I'm so happy to be here. This is honestly so exciting. I've been thinking about this all day, all week, all month.
I am so excited. This is like a completely different vibe having you actually here and doing this together. So welcome. And I'm so excited to talk a little bit more about you. If you could tell us a little bit about yourself and your background, that would be wonderful.
Yes. So I am technically born in England, but really grew up in Australia and American. And I lived in a million different countries. So I've been all over the place, but I just think I'm sort of a baby of the world, I guess. But I just opened a yoga studio, which is very exciting, on Camino de Estrella in San Clemente, which has been my dream forever. So that's been a really wonderful journey. It's only 4 months old right now, so I've been a yoga teacher since 2016. Forever now. Yeah.
How did you get into yoga, and how did you find yourself becoming a teacher?
Oh my gosh, it's such a funny story because I was never I didn't grow up with yoga. When I lived in Australia, I worked at this candle shop, which was kind of yoga-y, and I still didn't do it then. I was like, whatever. And then at my old job, I was just working at the underwater egress trainer, training Marines. And one of my coworkers, who's a wonderful yoga teacher, he suggested to try yoga so that my breath hold would be better to help my training of the Marines. And I was like, oh, okay, I'll do it, And I started off with Bikram yoga, which is very structured, which I actually ended up really loving. It was very challenging. And then from there, I fell in love with it. And after a year, the same lovely friend was like, you should try the teacher training. And I was like, what are you talking about? And then I did, and now that's been my journey. So it's been really wonderful.
It's I feel like yoga is one of those things where you kind of walk into it and you don't really know what to expect a lot of the time. And for me, when I first tried yoga, I was not expecting what it actually was and how it was so much more than just going to the gym or getting a workout in. And I really loved that about it. I actually did a little bit of teacher training as well.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, because I just fell in love with the practice so much. And that's why I wanted to have you on, because I feel like there's so many benefits to yoga.
Yeah.
We'll get into that in a little bit. But I want to talk about just like yoga in general and kind of more broadly. What does it mean to you? And once you started to do it, what did you kind of take out from it, like the things that you loved about it and that were more meaningful to you?
Yeah, I think exactly what you were talking about is there's this preconceived notion of yoga. You know, people say, oh, I do yoga, and they're like, oh, and sometimes people are so taken aback. They're like, I could never do it. It's like what I hear all the time. And it's so interesting to me because in my training and my journey of yoga, I have discovered and will tell this until the day I die is that yoga is literally for everybody. And people think that you have to be fit. You have to have, you know, all this calm. You need to like never be stressed. You need to do all of these different things. And in fact, it's totally the opposite. It's the most accepting practice and fitness journey and experience where I get to be my messy self. And that's really the only criteria. Show up, be imperfect. And I love that because I, even just recently, was sort of pushed back into like trying to be something that I wasn't because I felt like I needed to be, you know, something for everyone. And I was losing myself. And I just took a yoga class this morning and I like had this breakthrough. I'm like, no, I just need to be myself. That's all I can offer. And it was so grounding to have that recognition. So I'm excited to be here and to just share with everyone that if they have ever wanted to do it, they should just do it. Just show up, be imperfect, be messy. It's wonderful. We're not, you know, meant to be anything but ourselves.
I think that's important to mention because we see these advanced people and these people who are able to do these advanced postures. And then we think, oh, okay, that's what yoga is. The first thing I hear people say to me, and I'm sure you too, is I'm not flexible. I can't do it. So it's like, I think what we've seen a lot of times, it's like so different than what it actually is for people. And that's why it's good to just do it and try it because there's so many different ways. There's so much you can get out of it. And, you know, like a little side note, my children during COVID, we were, you know, trying to figure out things to do and ways to occupy our time and things that we could do that were kind of, you know, good for us and physically good for us and things like that. And we started kids yoga.
Oh my gosh.
And it was, you know, it was not like I was teaching them. I was putting on YouTube videos and it was like a moment for us, especially it was such a stressful time.
Yeah.
And it was such a great way to show children like, okay, this is what we can do. This is a way that we can settle down and like take a breath and, you know, not that they would say that they're stressed, but it just is such a healthy part of yoga. It's, for me, it was like that breath and seeing them like take breaths. And it's not just about like doing a chaturanga or all of those things, because a lot of the yoga that we did for the kids was the breath, a lot of it. And I think that's my next question. You know, yoga is more than the physical practice, and it offers so many more things and benefits that make it special. So what are some of the other things that you like to share that, you know, when you think of going to 24 Hour Fitness, for example, and you're doing a yoga class, like there's so much more to it. What else would you like to mention?
Well, just to touch on that point that you said is that, you know, people have that preconceived notion, and then oftentimes we forget as adults that we're allowed to be bad at things. You know, like as children, we're taught to like get back up. You know, it's okay to fall down. And somewhere along the way, because of society or because of anything, we're somehow programmed, it's not okay to fail. It's not okay to do these things. So I think people look at new activities where they see these beautiful yoga postures, as you said, and they think, well, I can't do that yet, so I'm not going to try. And it's like if you told your kid, oh, you might fall off that bike, you shouldn't really get on it. It's like, what are we doing? You know? And so I do love yoga because it can mean a variety of things to a variety of different people. It can be a stress release to your children. It can be a connection of community. And yoga actually means to yoke. That's what it's translated to, which means to bring two things together. And I think depending on the day, it can be whatever you want it to be. Sometimes it can bring your movement with your breath, your bravery and your fears, to bring yourself with your community, to bring yourself deeper into your mind and body connection. yoga is flexible, and I don't just mean like with the body, but you're allowed to have good days and bad days. You're allowed to just show up, and sometimes you do your best posture and you're like balancing the best and you're like, oh my gosh, look at me, like whew, sweating the most, like I burn lots of calories or whatever it is. And other days you just show up and you lay on your mat the whole time and you're like, I didn't even do a single posture. And I just want to applaud those people because it's like, you still came, you showed it, you made it to your mat, and you did the yoga, because yoga isn't about the best. That as soon as you walk into the room, the ego should be out the door. It's not supposed to be in the room. You're not competing with the people around you. You're just showing up for yourself imperfectly. And that's what I love.
I think that's one of the things that make it so special again. That's very different than some of the other classes that you might take.
Yeah.
You know, it is competitive.
Yes, and they sort of do that nowadays. I've taken a cycle class, which at first I was very afraid of, and then I was like, what am I afraid of? Just try it. Who knows? You know, and I was in the back, and I was like, okay, this is fun, little dancing. But they have you up on the board, and you are competing with all the people in the room. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm the slowest person here, you know? And I just love it because the studio that I've created, I just feel like it's a second home, and people can walk through the door, you know, and as soon as you walk through your house, you're supposed to just drop your bag, let your worries sort of dissipate. It's your temple, you know, and I wanted to create a space where people could just walk in and say, okay, here I am, and I'm just going to lay down, or I'm going to do the postures, and you get to sort of rediscover yourself that day, however that might look.
Yeah, and it might not be your best, and every day. And especially as women too, right? We have this cycle.
Yeah.
So sometimes in the month we're better than others.
Yeah.
And you know, and sometimes, like you said, like if it's my time of the month, I'm going to be the one on the mat laying down and that's
and just
it.
enjoying the heat, you
That's
know?
Right.
Or like, and that's the thing, that's Shavasana, you know what I mean? And
That's a pose.
It's a pose. And some people are like, I could never do yoga, and they're standing talking to me, and I'm like, you're doing Tadasana. You know, you're doing mountain pose right now. You're standing up and you're breathing. So congratulations, you've already started, you know? And I just love it. And the thing with the phases of how we are, I just read this beautiful quote, and I won't say it as beautifully probably, but it's that just like the moon, obviously, we've heard this, that it goes through all the phases. But what I really liked is that with each phase, it's shining different amounts of light, you know? And sometimes we're feeling bright and we're sharing our energy, and other days we just have a little bit to give. But if you look at the moon, you can still see that little ring. That moon is still whole. So no matter how you're showing up that day, however, how much light you're giving, you're still whole. So you have to remember that it's okay to be less, quote unquote, that day, but it doesn't mean you're less, you know, it's just you're filling up your cup in different ways and you'll be able to give what you can.
That's so true. And not worrying about not being 100% all the time, you know, every day looking different.
Yeah.
You've talked about a lot of amazing benefits, but is there any other benefits you want to share for someone who might be new to yoga? I know we've talked about some really great ones, and I think one of the things that I really liked about it when I was brand new, and I'm certainly in the beginners, I would still consider myself a beginner.
Me too.
Yes.
Honestly, you will be a beginner until you die. Like, that's the thing. It's a journey forever.
Sure.
You're never going to master it. Even those yogi masters have postures that they're working on.
Right,
you know?
right.
Or not even postures. They're mindfulness. That mindfulness comes in and out. Sorry.
Yes.
I interrupt you, but I get excited.
No, I mean, that's what I was going to say, is that being mindful piece of it, and being present, it really helps you to work on that. And of course, like, it doesn't mean that when I do a yoga class, I am present the whole time, because I do say, okay, you know, I'm trying to distract myself, or maybe my thoughts go somewhere else. But when I'm in a yoga class, I feel that I'm reminded that I need to stay present, like be back to like this moment.
Yeah. It's so interesting. I was just listening to something the other day, and it was talking about slow down, you miss out. And that's not the case, but that's how we start to think. We're so connected to our phones all the time. You know, we're getting updates, new emails, you know, that's our checklist. And it's like, if we slow down, not only are we missing out, but now we're not producing. We're not doing all these different things. And slowing down can be scary. Like, it requires us to hear our thoughts and be with ourselves, instead of just this whirlwind of like, okay, now I'm cooking, now I'm over here driving my car, now I'm like hanging out with my kids, now I'm doing these things. But when you have to actually be with yourself, I mean, that's intense. But when you do that, the slowing down allows you to not only appreciate beauty and see it, but to create it as well. When you go on a walk without your headphones, which love a good, podcast walk. Maybe someone's walking right now. Good job. Thumbs up. Because I heard that walking one that you did, which was fabulous.
The walking one is good.
Oh, so good. When you just get to be with yourself, it's like the weight of the world just kind of shifts. It kind of just like slides off your back like water off of a duck. And you get to breathe like a sigh of relief for a moment, because, and that's what I like about walking into the yoga room. You're just there for 60 minutes. You've already blocked out 60 minutes of your time. So that checklist shouldn't exist because you said, I'm committing to this time for myself. And all you're doing is that breathing in and out, in and out, in and out, moving with the postures, doing some postures different than the person next to you or that the teacher's guiding you to do because your body needs something different that day. And you get to clear your minds. And then I always leave a yoga class and it's like, this colors are brighter. You're like, wow, I didn't have to think about that to-do list. And guess what? The things are still there. I'm not missing out. The world didn't explode because I wasn't stressing about something. And I love that. Slowing down matters, and we have to allow ourselves to do it.
So true. And I do feel post-class, like post-yoga class, there is an elevated feeling.
Yeah.
And we get so few chances, I feel like, to, like you said, be kind of cleared, like have no distractions. And it's like fewer and fewer times in between our lives now. They're so busy. And like you said, with the phone and our kids and all of the things that we have going on, it's really challenging to find that time where you can kind of check out in a way from life and the stress of what's going on in the world and all of those things. So that's another amazing thing about yoga.
Yeah. It's funny because I think we decide that all of these things are important. And then if I actually look at if I wrote down and I was only allowed to write down 10 things that really mattered to me, what million other things did I not put on that list? And why did I not put them on that list? And now why am I creating this as a priority if it's not actually a true priority to me? It's like, well, I should be doing this. I should be watering the garden. I should be emptying out the fridge and I should be wiping the fridge. And what are you talking about? How about you have your breakfast and you sit there and you enjoy it and you call a friend because you want to and you go for a walk because it's good for you and you just get to enjoy all the different things. I don't know. It's gnarly when we create so much on our list and on our plate that don't actually matter. And we get so caught up on it. And then we forget, was it us that cared about it in the first place? Or was it society? Like, who gave me this, this brain that made me think I have to do everything at once, that I have to be a superwoman? It's like, it's madness. So
I know. It's those expectations that we get, and a lot of times, like you said, we put on ourselves.
Yeah.
And, I see this with moms all the time. Of course, I'm guilty of this, but like making sure that you're doing what you think is most important for your kids. Maybe it's an activity or something like that. And then you go back to like, wait, is this like a value of ours?
Right.
Is that why I'm doing it?
Right.
Is this good for my child? Or do I feel like FOMO if I don't do it? Or, something like that, where then that kind of takes away, the importance of doing it in the first place.
Yeah. Sometimes I get this often, and it's imposter syndrome, and I think that's when I get too out of my head and I'm like, oh my gosh, I need to be this. And someone, might expect me to be this. So I'm going to try and be that for that person. And it's like, for that person, like, what about me? So when I feel that imposter syndrome is coming on, maybe it's just like jealousy of someone that I see, even like, oh, wow, they're really cool. I'd like to be like that. And even if it's like a totally different style than what I have or am, even capable of, or, I feel like I'm losing my way, I just have to breathe. And sometimes I even just look in the mirror and I stare into my eyes. And, they say like your eyes are the gateway to your soul. And I get to just look at myself so deeply, really focused in. And I remember that I can't be anything more than myself, getting swept up in the external mess of the world like competition, comparison. It makes me feel so crazy. Like branches in like a massive windstorm, it's like you're just flying all over the place and you're like, why am I doing this? So that's also one of the reasons that I created the studio, is I wanted a place where people could root and not be in that windstorm. They can root down, they can remember their values, they can remember what actually matters to them and what their 10 items on that priority list is. And then they can go out into the world and enjoy those 10 things or whatever it is, 100 things. But, they get to have that like settling down and filling up of the cup, so that then their life can just be more vivacious and more colorful and exactly what they want it to be, instead of what other people want it to be.
That's amazing. I've never really heard somebody talk about it like that. That's especially when it comes to, how something like a yoga practice can go into something deeper with life, just in general. And I know my next question is about spirituality, and I know yoga is very spiritual. Actually, that's one of the reasons I think I was so interested in yoga. I remember just thinking, oh, this is why I like it so much, because it's more meaningful. And I remember somebody saying this a long time ago, maybe one of my past teachers, but it was like, you take this class and then you go out into the world and somebody cuts you off, and you're like, you let it go, and you just move on, and you don't have road rage. And the teacher was like, that's yoga. It's almost like having this, you have this practice and then you go out into the world, and it can like domino effect into your life. Yeah. And I know that's sort of spiritual, and I know that it goes way deeper than that, and it's in the ancient practice. But tell us a little bit about that.
No, I really love that. And I think that's such a great question, because it differs for everyone. And I think what's great is that if you lined up 100 people and asked them why they do yoga, all of their answers would be different. And I think some people come for the movement and the postures, and some people are very just into that, and that's totally okay. And others come for that connection to the spiritual. I personally love both. I really like that sort of yoking of them. But what I do love about yoga is that it's not looking outwardly for the answers. It's not searching for the answers outside of yourself. When we lose touch with reality, when we overthink and let too much of the chaos of society enter the world, that's really when it becomes a problem. So when you get to go into the yoga room, you get to look into yourself and say, what matters to me? How am I feeling today? Why am I feeling this way? How can I adjust this? Let me just sit here and breathe. It's really interesting. There was this time in my life and I was really unhappy. I was very sad. A lot of my friends were moving away, and I was like, I made the most amazing friends. Like, how? And I was driving down the 76, and I was like, had the wind in my hair, and I was just crying, and I was so sad. And I had my hand out the window, and I sort of was trying to grab the air. And I remember I was just trying to grab the air, and I was like, why can't I hold on to it? And I looked at my closed palm, and I just thought, when my palm is closed, I can't receive anything else. So if you hold on to something, emotions, people, whatever it is, you no longer can receive. And I think that's what yoga is fantastic about as well, is because you're in the class and it's like, just let it go. Allow yourself to receive more. Why are you bottled up like this, so tense, so tight? Just take a big inhale and let the rest go. Exhale it out. And I just love that. And actually in my classes lately, I've been doing that. We lie down in Shavasana and I say, squeeze your fist as tight as you can. Big inhale and open your fist and exhale. And you can just see people melt into the floor. It's beyond even, maybe they don't even know what they're letting go of, because it's so stuck in our minds, but you can just see it and it's beautiful.
That is beautiful. I'm actually reading a book right now, and they're talking about how we store emotions in our body.
Oh my gosh.
And we store trauma in our body, and how, a physical practice, and they weren't talking just about yoga, but having some type of physical release is so important for our emotions and things that are inside of us that we don't even know are there maybe, but are not serving us anymore. And it's so interesting how it's like animals, when something happens to them, they shake off. They shake. Wow. And that just helps release that kind of energy that they had from whatever maybe they we're upset about something, but they literally, their bodies shake.
Yeah.
And so that's amazing that you're doing that in class, because there's like scientific studies on how that's really beneficial for us.
I love that, because I really believe like energy cannot be created or destroyed. And obviously that's like a very famous thing. But if that's true, we have energy in us, and we, you know, and it has to be shifted. So if we're feeling really down in the dumps, there has to be a change. And often through that movement, it's just, you can check in. You're like, wow, this little part of me right here in my shoulder, it needs something, you know. And you can be doing some postures and you're like, oh, okay, it's shifted, like that's good. And that's exciting. And honestly, we just are going to add to our schedule, which I'm very excited about, a Reiki restorative class, which will be amazing, because that really helps create a lot of energy shifts as well. So yeah, it's going to be good.
Well, sign me up. That's like so my jam.
Yes, right? You just get to lay down and have beautiful people just like do all these things and help shift energy that you don't need. And I just love it. That's one of the things, as I talked about with imposter syndrome, is that I can't do it all, you know? And that was my biggest thing to create Twin Star Yoga Studio, because there are so many amazing people out there that offer things that I can't. And and all of the teachers in my studio, I just admire so much, because they have this spark in them, and it's a spark that I just adore. And they have something that they can share with the world. I have a breathwork teacher, April, and she is just absolutely amazing. She is so healing and so kind. And as soon as you meet her, you're just like, oh, yes, you know. And a lot of all my teachers, I just adore. So that's something that I'm excited. People can, depending on your day, maybe you're very needing something high energy that day, and you come and you do a sculpt class. And other days, you relax, you just need to do some restorative, you can do a sound bath, you can do breath work, and you just shift some energy that you need to let go of, and it's awesome.
As someone who's worked out for a long time, for a very long time, I would never have taken restorative. I would be like, you know, where's my
waste?
What's my calorie count?
Yes.
Obviously that's a disordered mentality, but I definitely, now that, especially after becoming a mom and being more tired, you know, you had me at, like, you can come in and lay down. I'm like, yes, I'm there. But I do feel like I do feel like that restorative type yoga, and, you know, with the breath and everything, I've heard that that's like getting sleep. Like your body is so relaxed and it goes into a different state, and you literally, it's like you're getting sleep.
Yeah. It's just one of those like restful states that allows your body to almost heal. And depending on the different time of the day, different organs are working at different paces. And so that restorative yoga not only allows you to go into a meditative state, which can be super healing, but yeah, exactly, resting your body. And some days, and actually, as you mentioned, for the cycle of women, I have a brilliant friend, Sydney, who she's a functional medicine doctor. She's like learning how to be a functional medicine doctor. And she was talking to me about how on our cycles, we're actually supposed to be doing different types of exercises during the month. So 1 week is in an endocrine phase or whatever it is. I don't know. I'm so sorry. But like there's one phase where it's like, be hyperactive. And then the next phase, be relaxed, be slow. And it's just so interesting that we're learning about this now. You know, us ladies, we have to be so kind to ourselves and really check in with what our body is needing. Because with society, they're like, go, 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 go. Oh, you're taking a rest? How lazy of you. And you're like, man, no, it's not. I'm filling up my cup right now with whatever I actually need. So it's brilliant. It's so important.
It's so important. And I want to do a whole episode on, you know, kind of, what do they call, cycle syncing? Because yeah, and why haven't we been taught this before? Of course. But also now that I'm learning about it, yes, your body needs different things at different times. And I think it's such a gift to go and take a class, you know, especially if you're feeling very low energy because your hormones are at a different state at that moment. What a gift to give yourself, to take that time and just really restore yourself. I think it's amazing. And I love that you have, you know, these different teachers at Twin Star. I want to talk about your studio and, you know, why it's so special. And I've been to your studio.
Yes.
I did a yoga sculpt. It was amazing. And of course, I highly recommend it, but I want to hear from you. Like, why did you create the studio and what is so special? How does your community like play a role in yoga?
Oh my gosh, I love my community. Honestly, I think that's one of the main reasons that I created just Twin Star Yoga in general was it was during the pandemic, and I just wanted to create a platform for community to come together, not only people, but also small businesses. And it was so grounding just to meet like-minded people. I think that's really, really important. And then once I got my brick and mortar going in December, I just was so excited because I knew the right people would walk through the door. Like, I wanted to kind of go out and search and be like, shout it from the rooftops. And I sort of did. But also at the same time, I'm like, the people that need to find this will find this. And I really seen that that's the case. People walk in and they're like, I've never done yoga. And I'm like, welcome, hello. And they were like, I just saw your sign. And I'm sort of like a hidden gem. I'm sort of like at the back of a building, you know. And they're like, I think this is the place. And it just makes my heart just soar, because that's what I want. I want people to come in. I want people to take their mask off, you know, just figuratively speaking, and just be themselves. But most importantly, to create a sustainable practice. I think a lot of times at certain studios or gyms or whatever it might be, we get really burnt out, you know, and then we're like, man, I need a break. I can't do it. So I really wanted to create a place that has multiple different classes depending on the day. And then people want to go every day. They feel good about it. It's not going to burn them out. Maybe they're going to get a little bit of sculpt and get the heat and the weights, and other days they're going to sort of relax. But I just want a place that lights people's souls up. They just feel excited to be alive again, feel excited about movement. And that's really so important to me, because a lot of times it's pressure filled. You have to exercise, otherwise you're unhealthy, whatever it is. And it's like, that's not the case, you know, and I want people to find something that they enjoy and want to keep coming back to time and time again. And if they feel at home there and they feel like they have a community, it's great. I mean, sometimes I have to, you know, say, girls, stop gabbing. Like, we have to get to work, you know, and everyone's just having the time of their life as they come in, and it just makes me smile. I just love it. So, yeah.
Wow. I think you can never get somebody to be completely, I don't know, excited about working out when it's from a place of, you have to do this.
Yeah.
Or, you know, you have to find something that brings you happiness. Like, and I find this for me, like, I don't have a problem working out. It's like, I feel worse when I don't get to go.
Yeah.
But that's because I found what brings me joy and like what I love. If you made me go to the gym and sit on the treadmill, I would be like a lot of people. I wouldn't do it, or I'd have a hard time doing it because that's not what fills my bucket.
Yeah.
And obviously somebody coming, you know, to your studio, especially having you as a teacher, it's not very hard to get excited and be motivated because of your personality and how inspiring you are. But I'd love to hear a little bit more. Like, tell us more about what you offer. What classes do you offer at your studio?
Yeah, absolutely. So we offer heated sculpt, which is a 45-minute sort of like power class with weights. And then we offer heated vinyasa, which I love, love, love teaching. It's so amazing, which is just really fun and all levels. So all of my classes are for beginners. So if you are here, sitting here thinking, should I do it? Could I do it? Can I do it? My answer is yes. Yoga's for everybody. We offer bar fusion, which is really great. Sound baths, breath work, and the Reiki restorative, which I'm very excited about. And we just sort of try to do it all. And it's funny because people come up to me and they say, oh, can we do this? And I say, yes. I just decided to be a yes woman, because if someone brings it up, then it matters to them. And if it matters to them, I want it to matter to me. So yeah, that's how the Reiki restorative came about. This girl came in, she took a class and she said, hey, would you want to offer this? And I was just like, yeah, yes, I would. Thank you for saying that, you know? So it's awesome. And yeah, I'm excited to fill up the schedule more and more, you know? Now being a new business, we have just about 30 classes on the schedule.
Wow.
Crazy.
That's a lot.
Yeah. So we're open 7 days a week. Some of them are heated, some of them are non-heated, and we just want people to come when they can and get excited about finding their movement.
So I have a lot of local listeners. So if you're listening to this and you're local to San Clemente in California, Southern California, please come and take a class and text me too, because I will go with you. I love it.
Yes. And that's so exciting because my first class is only $10 for everyone. That's the other thing. I really wanted to make movement affordable. nowadays, especially in California, everything's kind of nichey, you know, and some of these memberships are like $200, and I can't do it. So, you know, and people come in and sometimes they say, oh, Cecily, this is what I can afford. And I go, okay. You know, I just feel like people need it and people want it. And if they're coming to it, then I'm ready to give it to them, you know. So the first class is only $10. Our memberships, unlimited yoga and all the different classes is only $129. It's a great bargain. And if you are listening right now and you come in and you use the code SimplyJess, then the first class is free. Woohoo!
Yay! Thank you for offering that for all of our listeners. And go follow on Instagram too.
Yes.
You're at Twin Star Yoga?
Yes.
Okay.
My personal account is Twin Star Yoga. That's just me making silly reels and doing yoga poses. And then the studio is Twin Star Yoga Studio. So you can find all the updates of classes and you can meet the teachers on there and do all of the different things.
And I will have this all linked in the show notes, so you can just go to the show notes and click on the links there. And if you have any questions, make sure that you reach out.
Yes.
And thank you so much for being here. You are super amazing, and this has been so much fun.
Yay! I love being in person. This is fabulous.
In person's fun.
Thank you for inviting me into your home. I had the best time. This is amazing, and I can't wait to meet everybody, all of your listeners.
Yes.
Let's meet.
They're amazing. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to this week's episode. Please subscribe and review so we can reach more people who want to learn to glow alongside us. See you next time.